Lagos has spoken, and the law is binding, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's binding.
Okay.
It's binding until we have any other superior ruling.
Let's run with that one. Okay, our next story. You know, economic growth, we should tell you, is the increase in the production of goods and services in an economy, typically measured as a percentage increase in real gross domestic product, GDP. The cheering news we desire to share is the one that says our GDP grew by 4.23% in the second quarter of 2025, making it the fastest in 4 years. And so this growth therefore tells you this growth is largely driven by 3.13% expansion in the first quarter and reflects an updated GDP calculation methodology. This is good news and tells us we are on the way home. Joining us for more discussion of the issue is a development economist, Professor Ken Ife. Are we ready? Is Prof ready for us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Prof, I greet you. Welcome.
Well, hi, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Except I can't see you.
We are feeling you. I can feel you. Don't worry. You'll get to see me. Yeah.
No problem.
So how do you weigh in here, Prof?
Well, I think it's good news. If you listen to the NESG conference, Monday to Wednesday, it was mentioned a lot. And also on Wednesday, you also had a World Bank report, which also recognized substantial macroeconomic gains, focus more on the monetary policy gains, because that has been the main driver in terms of maintaining, currency stability and all kinds of financial system stability, and how it rubbed off on inflation. Of course, we had a rebasing of our inflation, but over that last 6 months, it has been steadily coming down. But what you find in the growth story is that it's driven by non-oil sector. That doesn't mean that actually oil sector gave you 20.46% growth, even though the proportion of the oil to GDP has even reduced to 4.1%, from 5.5% now to 4.1%. But the non-oil sector in full aggregate, because they're about 96%, 95.99%, they grew at 3.64%. So when you now consider the proportion of the oil growth, which is about 20.46, and weigh it down to 4.1%, that's how you came to 4.23%. Okay. But nevertheless, it is an improvement over the first quarter of 3.13%, and a significant improvement over the last year on year, which was 3.48%. But that only tells you part of the story. But I think you also need to understand the aggregates behind that figure. If you look at agriculture in the first quarter was pathetic. It was 0.07%. But now it has increased to 2.82%. But it's not the uhuru, because our population growth rate is at 3%. Urbanization rate is 4.6%. So, and then also you have to recognize that we are at the moment, we're actually, we're having harvest. So it's not unusual to have that figure at this period in testing. So, but then industry also performed at 7.45%, quite unlike the negative territories industry has been for quite some time. Services, obviously, is the major driver. We came in at 3.94. That has always been the major driver of our economy. So, but that opens up two other issues, because people are wondering, yeah, you're having growth, but why is that growth not inclusive? Why is it not leading to employment? Why are more people slipping into poverty? Why is the multi-dimensional poverty over 133 million people? So we are not in a position to answer all those questions unless you look deeper into what these figures reveal.
But our story is a happy one regarding what you have told us, right?
What I would say to you is this. all the macroeconomic parameters that have generated the growth that you see are necessary, but they are not sufficient conditions for you to have ramp up employment, for you to dent the poverty figures, for you to lift more people out of poverty.
Thank you, Prof. Now you can see us. So my colleagues have questions for you.
Prof, sir.
Oh, hi. I can't see you. It's okay. I can see go on.
Okay, we can see you.
We can see you.
We can see you.
Don't worry. It not be
yes,
magic.
We can see
It's not magic. We are seeing you.
No
it is heartwarming that other sectors are contributing to our GDP, unlike before that is only oil that we depended on. But my problem is that why is it that the fundamentals of the economy seems to be getting better, but it's not reaching an average Nigeria? What is the problem? Yeah. Why is it that an average Nigeria is still complaining where the fundamentals looks to be good?
Yeah, I started by saying that the greatest disappointment was agriculture, because we have food insecurity challenges. And in the first quarter, it was 0.07, which is really zero. But now it has posted 2.82%, but it's still below our population growth rate. Our population growth is 3%, and urbanization is 4.6%. So we are still having major challenges about being able to feed ourselves. And if you look at the World Bank report, it has 3 recommendations. It says focus on food insecurity and get food inflation down. That was number 1 conclusion they came to. The second conclusion they came to is, please, let's be more fiscally efficient, more fiscally responsible. And that's the second one. And this is the first time I'm seeing them come to me, because I have been hammering this for years. But the recommendations, it was music to my ear when I did Arise the other day, yesterday or the other day. Now, the third one is another one that I've been hammering. I'm saying that you can have social safety net. You can do conditional cash transfer. Don't borrow money to do that. Use your own revenue. Because in September, you beat the target of getting 36 trillion. Why don't you use that money to pay for those things? And why is World Bank giving you loan to share when they should give you their grant to share? So I've been saying this for 2-3 years. Now, World Bank has come to it and said, yeah, expand the social net, but keep away from borrowing. And that was a good day for me, to discuss this in Arise the other day. So the answer is this. Some of the answers. If you even look at Fitch rating has upgraded, it's improved. Capital inflow has improved 5.6 billion, but the FDI is not coming. FDI may not even be up to 2-3 billion this year. There was time 2024 when it used to be 20 billion. The problem of FDI inflow reflects the mismatch between the growth and the poverty reduction indices, and then the failure of unemployment. So the thing is this: they are not coming because, unlike foreign portfolio investment that we are seeing that are flowing in, they are coming in to take the differential in interest rates. Somebody borrows money in UK, Germany, America at 3-4%, and they come here and buy your treasury bills at 18%, and then buy your dollar instrument at 10%. Yeah, they're making good profit, but they are doing it on the back of currency stability. Once they can see that these guys have kept the currency steady, so after 1 year or after 9 months, they'll come and take their money back. The moment you change, they will run away. So that is the point. Now, but then the foreign direct investment is not involved in that antique. They want to see conditions, market conditions. They are concerned about insecurity. They are concerned about high cost of production, because a lot of it is a patient capital that go into longer term investment in factories and all that, buying acquisition, in acquiring more. They're not coming because they are not happy, because they know that the wage prices have not stabilized. They know that the petrol and all this diesel are quite high. They know that the electricity, look at band A, is 220 naira per liter. And you cannot use this band A to process cassava. You cannot use it to process of our raw materials. You can't, because you will never make money. So, but they have seen it. And then they've seen all this labor. Look at the labor. all the refineries dead, and they're importing and importing substandard food, and they're turning around to attack Dangote with 20 billion. It doesn't show that we respect industrialization. But anyway, so then the opening salvo of what I think is really wrong. What I think is wrong is this. We have an import-dependent economy.
Okay.
And when you have an import-dependent economy, it doesn't matter whatever the global headwind is, you will be affected. Whether it's COVID, whether it's supply chain disruption, whether it is America's subprime crisis of 2008, whether it's Russia war. What business do we have with Russia war when we have oil and gas and they have oil and gas? It's because Russia supplies 40% of the gas to Europe. So when they turn down the tap, Europe price is doubled and tripled, and Nigeria is importing from as your second biggest partner. It's import dependency. And then you come to when I was talking about in the NESG, I was addressing the opportunity of Africa continental free trade. So I said that a few things have happened to Nigeria. Good news, we have got AFCTA. Well, Donald Trump has liberated us economically by saying American first. So we jumped in with Nigerian first. But the most important thing that the president has done, apart from removing subsidy, the second most important thing he has done is to pass this 30% value addition.
Okay.
Now, what it means is Nigeria is for the first time going to face the challenge, because you are saying import dependence, but what are you importing? You are importing food, you are importing textile, you are importing this. But now there's a law that says, I'm not going to allow you to export less than 30% value. So where is your industrialization program to deliver that 30%?
Yeah.
And then you are going to do this industrialization on the back of an export-led growth strategy, because it is export-led growth strategy that took away 400 million people out of poverty in China, hundreds of millions out of poverty in Malaysia, Indonesia, South Korea. It is that strategy. But unfortunately, you don't even have industrial strategy. You don't even have trade policy. You don't have industrial policy. So we have issue in our country. I don't want the government to feel that I'm knocking them down. No, I'm not knocking. When I gave interview this morning on what Sanusi said, Sanusi rated the government at 80%. I said, no, I will rate government at 85%, even more. But we have to face the truth. The truth is that we have a dominant fiscal policy that dominates the entire monetary policy, trade policy, investment policy, employment policy. It dominates them. And that is what we have inherited for years.
Okay.
So, wait. You see, finance is a service provider. You cannot dominate the real sector. The people that are doing agriculture, they are doing solid mineral, they are doing oil and gas, they are doing blue economy. These are the people generating the wealth from where you can get jobs. But the way the fiscal policy is run dominates them. Well, I can give you more when you give me time.
Yeah, Prof, just a minute. Economics 101 tells you and I that the only way to save the national currency, that is the Naira, is to go into an aggressive production. You know, are we on the way there?
Well, see, if there is, I've just given you the impetus. That is the thing, the opportunities. The one is the legislative opportunity from the president. One is the market that opened up in continent. But the third one is that you have devaluation of almost 200%. Companies export. One purpose is that when companies have goods to export, they devalue their currency so that the whole world is asking them for their products. Now, I'm a chief consultant in ECOWAS Commission since 2010. Anytime we go on mission, with 1 Naira, we buy 3 francs CFA. And we are surrounded by francophone countries. But when I went to Cotonou last month, you know, apple, you buy 1 apple here, not 800 Naira, just one single apple. But, no, 800 Naira, sometimes they can even tell you 1,000 Naira. But when I went to Semeboda, I had to buy 3,000 Naira. So, you know, that 1 Naira that I have cannot get me 1 CFA. It is 0.7 that it could get me.
Okay.
When he used to buy 3. So in the perspective of those people surrounding us, our things are so cheap. They don't need to go to China anymore. Just go to Nigeria. Anything you get from Nigeria, you make money, 200% profit. That is the situation. The hotel, I used to pay We all used to pay 100,000 naira for per hotel, per room. But when I went there, that room that we used to pay 100 is now 300,000 when I convert it to naira. I said, no, me. You need to pay 300,000 naira per night.
How will you sleep?
Not even 5-star. Do you understand? It is how bad it is. But then it's a huge monumental opportunity for us to export anything and everything in this country.
So the door is still open.
Unfortunately, you cannot export raw material to Africa. You have to export manufactured goods.
Finished goods. Okay, my colleague has a question for you.
Prof, sir, you know we run a federal system of government where whatever the national is doing, the sub-national will have to queue in. Most Nigerians are worried that with the gains of subsidy removal, there appear not to be seen enough effort from the sub-national, because the production you are talking about, it is not the federal government that will do the production. This thing will have to take place in the sub-nationals. How do we get them to key into this program?
Okay, let me give you two answers to this. First of all, it's not the sub-national that filtered away 50% of the subsidy gain. It's the NNPC. President had only 50%. World Bank confirmed that only 50% of the subsidy was available to the president. If the president had 100% of subsidy, he would have done 3-4 times more. And when he had it, plus devaluation, he had to increase the money for the states. So they are not getting, so they're getting, they're sharing 1.some trillion, 2 trillion. So they are at least to keep them quiet. When Buhari came, he had to give them 800, 600 billion to keep them quiet. To get in with it. But the second thing is this. If you look at the regions in the 60s and early 70s, it is the regions that we are running the agriculture. They are running this mine, they are running all this industry, and they're paying a tax to federal government. In the 70s, as soon as oil came, federal government took over agriculture to create federal ministry of agriculture and all that, and then everything now all coming to all the body, everybody, politicians, they're all in Abuja, collecting all the hundreds of billions that are being used to buy seeds and all that. And seeds arrive when the farming season is over, and fertilizer comes when the this is the distortion. It is a distortion. So the states and regions agriculture because there is no more incentive. They see how it was organized. They have look at what Cocoa did. You used Cocoa build that building in Ibadan.
Yes.
Cocoa gave you the first television station in Africa. Yes. Look at what Michael Okpara did. All of these things were on the back of their estates, pyramid. All of these were on the back of the fact that they were controlling what they were getting. They had marketing boards that organized the production and market. But now there isn't. They destroyed, they dissolved the marketing boards. Everybody's fighting for himself. The farmer, the actual farmer that grows the crops, doesn't get a look in. So that's you have to know where, if a chicken says, you need to know where the rain started beating you before you know when it stopped. So you have to understand what has happened. And so the import dependency was by design, because we inherited a division of labor that made us a producer of raw material, which Europe and the global north wants to process and bring for us to consume. And if you look at the whole setup of the bureaucracy, the whole structure is to perpetuate that.
Yeah.
That is the heart of our problem. So, and if you want to tackle it, you have to tackle it with an industrialization program that enables you to do your import substitution and backward integration. But at the moment, you are not.
And you get the impression that nobody is scandalized that this same us, are importing palm oil from Malaysia.
Well, you know about that because they actually came here in 1960-something to collect the seedlings, including Tenera seedlings. And then when they went back, they now have 90,000 hectares of plantation. They have 50,000. Now Nigerians are working in their plantation farm. And in fact, one of their 90,000 hectares, they have cleared it up and used it to build Internet City. So it's just a story that we have not invested. We have not. Let me tell you what one other big challenge is, that federal government. I talked to you about fiscal efficiency, and fiscal dominance. The greatest dimension of it is, look, I am all for government to borrow money because our indices are very favorable. It's now come down from 40-something to 39% debt to GDP ratio. And then our current account surplus is positive. It's about 6.2%. The other time it was $6.8 billion. So the whole stage is set for Nigeria to borrow more money. But I'm concerned about what they are borrowing the money for. That's the problem. Look, if you borrow, let me tell you what the law, they're borrowing money to do what they should use their own money to do.
Okay.
The law says, so fiscal responsibility at 2019, you know what it says? It says a few things about borrowing. That government can borrow, but on certain conditions. Eligibility condition. You can only borrow for capital expenditure and human resource development. Human resource development is education, health, employment, and self-employment. Fine. It is not about paying salaries. It is not about poverty reduction. It doesn't give you money to go and borrow and share it for whatever you want to call it. Then it comes to capital expenditure. Now listen, it says infrastructure or investment in productive capacity, because it is looking, and the type of infrastructure it wants you to borrow is the one that has productive capacity in mind that can give you benefit. And then it now goes and says you must carry out cost-benefit analysis on any borrowing. And then they don't want to show you any of that. I've been asking for this for 10 years, 15 years. Show me the cost-benefit analysis on this particular board. They will show you. And then you got to issue certificate of compliance when it should be issuing certificate of non-compliance, because all the things there are not complied with. Now, let me tell you the implication of a law asking you to do cost-benefit analysis. It says if you want to borrow money to build infrastructure, whether it's rail or road or highway or ICT, consider economic corridors, industrial corridors, commercial corridors, residential corridors, so that investment, that infrastructure will connect economic activities. And then you are capable of generating usage that will enable you to repair and maintain the infrastructure. The law does not allow you to borrow money to go and build any kind of infrastructure that leads to no man's land and doesn't generate any value. Use your own money to do that. Go and use your 35 trillion, 36 trillion to do that. Borrow what you can justify. I didn't know that it is so much that the law now came back and said any financial institution that lends money outside this framework is unlawful. And even because the politicians wanted to stop direct prosecution, they couldn't stop the ouster of locus standi. The ouster of locus standi said any Nigerian citizen can go to High Court to obtain a prerogative order to enforce this act, which means, you've given the power to citizens. Because the people, the assembly people, didn't want the direct one where we wanted to classify the offense and then how the infraction and then the penalty. They removed that. But the law still says anybody can go to court, except that it's going to cost you money to go to court.
Sir, I believe that Naira is grossly undervalued.
Definitely. But it is important if you can use it. We are not using the opportunity.
So what can we do about that? Because it's grossly undervalued. What do you think government should do to be able to solve that problem?
Now, if you start radical, look at what, I've got two answers. If you remember in the last administration, about $500 billion Naira was spent in buying goods from Zamfara, all those stuff. Now, look at what Ghana is doing. Ghana is doing exactly the same thing, and their cities have upgraded by over 40%, have increased in value. Now, you have to start purchasing those raw materials, since you've already said you can't export 30%. Start buying those as they were doing then. CBN was buying them. You buy them, refine them, and send them to your reserves. Send them to your gold reserves, your foreign reserves. Once you have them in your reserves, your currency will strengthen immediately, and you'll be less vulnerable to what dollar is doing with you and your currency. So that's number one. Then number two is start exporting. Start doing massive industrialization programs so that you can exploit this edge of having very low exchange rate. So because in the end of the day, this will eventually appreciate. It will appreciate. But if you start appreciating without you doing anything about industrialization, you've missed the opportunity. You've missed that window. So you are still, and then the thing is this. I want to tell you this thing. All these service industries, they're wonderful. But banking is not good. Banking doesn't even finance agri and solid mineral. They don't find, and they call them a high risk. Is it ICT telephone that will give you food to eat? Where is it? Tell me which one. Is it dancing our Nollywood dance? Is it the one that will feed the people out in the street? All these things are wonderful. Education, that, yeah, fine. They are important, we should do them, but they will feed you. They will not give you the jobs that you are looking for. Are you with me? You won't get the jobs. So you will continue to see and celebrate, high, macroeconomic parameters. Oh, we have high growth, and more people are going into poverty because you are not making the connection. Let me give you one of the connections I made during the NESG. I told them employment. Well, employment policy doesn't even talk to industrialization agenda, but let's look at it. We have 42 million MSMEs in Nigeria, which is 48% of 90 million MSMEs in Africa. Can you imagine that? Nigeria, that is 15% of Africa population, 16% of Africa GDP, now has 48% of Africa entrepreneurship. Does that not tell you that entrepreneurship is a latent comparative advantage for Nigeria? Then you turn around, who is funding entrepreneurship? The banks are not funding them. What they are funding are traders. Because if you give somebody 35% interest, is it manufacturer? What's he going to do with it? It's only the trader that can turn it around. So just forget that. So the point is this: what are you going to do? So I now said, okay, we're all crying for employment. 7 million is the natural level of employment for Nigeria because it's about 3% of our population. But you can ask those 42 million, telling me what we can do for you to get one person, one job, a company, one job. Finish. In the next 5 years, can 42 million give us 42 million jobs? The answer is, of course. If they want 50,000 naira to train an apprentice or whatever, to attach somebody for 6 months and training, and then when that person finishes that training, then you give them maybe 200 to get the tools to go out and do something. They will mop up the people on the street. But companies like Dango, they can train 100,000 and give them jobs. So pilot in Lagos can have, just let's do 100,000 companies and tell them to create one job, at least one job. And then give them that, some of that money, just something to augment, even if it is half salary for 6 months after they have done this training, because you are delivering the skills that they need. The challenge you have in your economy is that colonies told you to build schools. You have millions of schools now, but they don't produce any skill. Whereas Germans, those German colonies have learned to produce skills. You find the skill in the workplace. You don't find it in the classroom. So that's why you have a big gulf between what you produce from education, completely mismatching what the labor market needs. So when you push the people on the street to those labor markets, they will turn them. I mean, some people will call it apprenticeships, whatever you want to call them, or internship or whatever. Go there, let him do that training, not classroom. Don't tell me to go and sweep gutter, and after that you call it employment. No, let them go to those small businesses, and then you see the transformation that you need, and then give them. So I mean, this is not rocket science. It's just a tension between. The tension is between what politicians want, what the gatekeepers want, and what the real sector of the economy wants. They're grappling, they're looking for the resource, struggling for who gets that resource.
Yeah, Prof, one final question for you from my colleague here.
Talking about industrialization, what measures will you be telling the governors to take to meet up with some of the proposals you have dropped this evening?
Well, the thing is that the federal government has an overbearing attitude. And that's why we need to move to a revenue formula that actually whittles down a lot of the things that federal government has taken on. I'm telling you, you have 350 dams in Nigeria. Okay. Count how many dams are giving you power and giving you more credit. And those dams are with the states. What business has federal government with mini dam and small dams? You can do Kainji and then do the one in Taraba. But, what business do you have there? What real business does federal government have with agriculture? Why? You don't own any land. The lands are owned by state governments. So what is it except you grab a huge chunk of the budget and then you say you are importing this? People that are importers are making the money, getting the license and importing it. And then I spoke to some ministers of agriculture over the years, and I keep asking them the same question: what is your greatest challenge in agriculture? You know what they tell me? That it is how to make sure that all these monies and things we buy actually reach the man that is actually growing the crop. That is what they tell me. So, you know, we're going to call a spade a spade. But then you need to have the policy trust. And this policy trust is not going to be at federal alone. Because you don't have industrialization as a major response to an export-led growth strategy, then everybody's doing everything everybody thinks. There's no driver. And if you drive that, states will fall in line. Local governments have now local financial autonomy. They will fall in line. But there is no strategy. If you don't have the strategy, everybody does his own thing. That's the problem. And then you can see, when I say that there's fiscal indiscipline and fiscal inefficiency, it is when you want to now build infrastructure and you have industrialization in mind, now you are going to be looking at, oh, we have 35 free trade zones. Go on, let's go and put industrial infrastructure in there. You know, in UK, we have what they call London Industrial. All the government assets and all the businesses, they give them to them. They disuse the closed center. They go and convert all of them to industrial workspaces. So people move in. Now you have 35 people got licensed and they are sitting down, waiting for somebody to bring their money and go into their land and go and develop the industrial park. No, that's what and they are giving money to builders, developers, building houses, homes, and all these homes are looking for air conditioners. And even what you should do for rural industrialization, you're using it to buy a conditioner to give light. Everybody gets light in the home, but not the industry that wants to produce. It is a mismatch.
Okay.
It's a mismatch because you are not looking at any borrowing that heads into, agriculture. You invest in quality infrastructure for your agriculture product to sell. It won't sell. It will not go to be of quality. It doesn't mean the thing for the market. You have nothing to sell because you have no directed infrastructure to productive activity and to industrialization. So you cannot produce product that can sell.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
I dare say you are the interviewer's delight. Thank you for
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your intervention.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm especially elated because you informed us, and Nigerians by extension, the federal government has no land. Every land is vested in states. So the state governments have a huge job to do in this regard, right?
Absolutely, but they need a vision.
Okay.
They need a vision. It is the federal government that gives that vision and gets all the macroeconomic policy units to focus on it. Until, if fiscal doesn't focus on industrialization, it will continue to give license to people to import clothes, and then those who do, and then all those things, it will negate everything that you could have done. And then you should incentivize states that do well, give them award, give them more, recognize them. You know what I mean? You don't have to change the constitution for these things to happen.
Thank you, Prof. Enjoy the remainder of your day. Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that was Professor Ken Ife telling us what we should hear and know.
Yes.
You know, so the subnationals, I hope they are listening.
I pray so.
Is it about prayers or about doing what is right? Because you hear God is blessing America. Is America blessing God? You can bring it home here.
Yeah.
God has blessed Nigeria.
Absolutely.
blessing
Absolutely.
God?
The Nigerians are not willing to do the right thing.